It seemed to me at the time, because when I started playing professionally on the road, playing the Chitlin circuit down south, it was official. It seemed to me like one of your big obligations was to absorb everything you could, musically, life experience, learning the code of the road that I talk about in the book. It was really about absorbing everything. And the idea of coming from Canada and down to the Mississippi Delta, to me this was like going to the Fountainhead. It was like, oh, that's music that I loved. And now I'm traveling through Mississippi, and now I'm on my way to Memphis, and I'm going to all of these places, which had been a fantasy in my growing up. Now that I'm there, and I understand quickly, and it was one of the things, because when Ronnie Hawkins and the Hawks hired me, I was 16 years old. I was too young to be in this group. You had to be 21 to play in these places that they played. I was too inexperienced. I wasn't as good at my craft yet as I needed to be. And most of all, I was from Canada, you know, in a southern rockabilly band.
Yeah.
No Canadians allowed, right? And I was in this, so I knew a big part of the magic here was to be able to soak this up and use it and take it in. So we called it woodshedding, and it was paying your dues. It was learning your craft. And one of the big things that I think separated the band and the Hawks from other groups was that it was a real band in that sense. That all 5 members, we were all on a mission to absorb and to take this in and become better and better every day. And before we made Music from Big Pink, our first album, we'd been together for 6 or 7 years and done all this woodshedding and paying our dues.
Yeah.
And so that's why when that record came out, it had maybe a certain kind of depth to it, a certain kind of something to it that separated us from the pack.
You know, a lot of times business people or musicians will, going forward, knowing the crowd is actually booing you because you plugged in. How do you go with that?
What a polite way of saying it. Because it was unimaginable. I had never heard of anything like this. I'd never seen anything like this. But we played all over North America, all over Australia, all over Europe, and every night people booed us, threw stuff at us, and generally disinvited us to the party, right? For a while in this, you think, well, you know what? I'm just going to pretend this isn't happening. I'm just going to put my head down and go on. And then after a while, you start thinking, usually when something like this happens, you get together and you say, it doesn't seem to be working very well. Maybe we could make some changes.
Let's switch horses. This one is not moving anymore.
That wasn't even on the list of the to-do list, to change anything. And if there was anything that we were going to adjust, it was to play bolder, harder, and faster, because this was a thing that you knew we had nothing to compare this to.
Yeah.
And at some point, In that tour, after one of our concerts, in the hotel room, we were listening to the tape of what we had just done. And I specifically remember saying to the other guys, the Hawks, and to Bob Dylan, I remember saying, they're wrong. The world is wrong. This is really good. I'm sorry, but this is really good, and they're going to have to get used to it. And in the midst of it, realizing that you were in the midst of a musical revolution. This is what happens when things change, when the world isn't ready for this. And in the course of that experience that went on for months of every night, this happening all over the world, that at some point you think, you know what? I don't know if we're going to win this battle, but in the end, at the end of the day, we're going to win this war because this is good. And, thankfully it did work out.
That could have been a valley, but thank God it didn't.
Yeah.
But there's some great lessons there for anyone going through life, that you're going to get opposition, right? Not everyone is going to instantly agree with your new idea.
From a pretty young age, I was a movie bug. I was really captured by film. And I carried this around with me, and I've even talking about that same song, The Wait, the Spanish filmmaker, Luis Buñuel. I was inspired by some of his movies in writing that as well. He had a movie called Nazarene. But anyway, movies, I don't know, I was just plugged in and fascinated by it. And I used to read scripts, and I found them very inspiring to classic movies, and I love because it told me, it helped clear up some of the mystery of, because I'd watch 8 1/2, Fellini's movie, and I thought, how in the world do they think of this, and what made them do this and then go to that? How do you even imagine something like that? And wanting to spread your own horizon of imagination. So I dug in on that. Cut to years later, I have this idea that we are going to bring the band's journey to a conclusion. And we're going to have a musical celebration, and we're going to call it The Last Waltz. I go, and I think, because I'm kind of a movie guy, I think, who would be the most brilliant guy that I could ask to direct this movie? And I thought about Hal Ashby. He uses music in a very special way in these movies. And George Lucas did American Graffiti, and Coppola did that music, The Conversation, and there was all of these things. But there was a particular thing about Martin Scorsese's touch, his instinct with music, that separated him from the pack in some kind of way. So I went to him and asked him, and the timing was terrible. He was in the middle of shooting a movie, and I told him what we wanted to do, and he was like, oh my God, these are all my favorite people. And he said, but I'm in the middle of making a movie, and they really hate it when you're making a studio movie and you go off and make another movie. They really don't like that at all. But I've got to figure this out. So finally he said, you know what? They can fire me, they can crucify me, they can do it, I have to do this. And I was like, oh my God, this is such a good sign. So now there is, and I don't know whether you know about this, but there's a collector's edition of The Last Waltz that's just come out, and it is Martin Scorsese's script. Wow. And it is everything that went into making The Last Waltz. I've never seen anything like this before. And it has the movie and all the music, and it has the paintings of the great production designer Boris Levin. It is phenomenal. I can't believe that Warner Brothers and Rhino decided that they were that ambitious to do this. So anyway, it just shows the level of concentration and preparedness that he did in going in, and that's why that movie separates itself from the pack, all these years later. So anyway, the experience with Scorsese pulled me closer in that direction. After The Last Waltz, he decided he was going to make this movie called Raging Bull. And he asked me if I would help in the music in this. And there was I had to make some music, I had to find some music, I had to fix some music, I had all of these different things to do that I had never done before. And that movie and that music, I've said this before, this movie comes on and you see a man in a leopard skin boxing uniform on the side of a ring in black and white, bouncing up and down in slow motion. It's a lovely shot. But when you put that Mastani music with it, your heart starts beating. It gives you chills all over. And the movie hasn't even begun and you're saying, this is the real deal here, And that kind of thrill got under my skin. And I thought the effect and the power. Now, I never thought, I want to score movies. I don't like the word incidental music, and a lot of movie music has to be incidental. It's just there to supply a little something and everything. And I'm like, so I wasn't a full-fledged, I am going to score movies now. But I will do anything with this guy, Martin Scorsese, that he has up his sleeve. He's an amazing, so I don't even know how many of his movies that I've worked on anymore, but every time it's a different challenge. It's a different experience altogether. And he's a dear, dear friend. So it's an opportunity for us to mix it up and experiment, and I love it. And I've worked with other directors over the years, too, Oliver Stone and some others that are great and everything. But my real connection to this is with Marty Scorsese.